Hey guys, since you're all joining me for this little road trip of mine, I thought it only appropriate to talk about some rip-offs of Disney Pixar's Cars. We've already talked about A Cars Life 2 and 3, so now let's talk about 3 of the Little Cars movies. I say series instead of sequels because there are 8, count 'em, 8 movies in total. I have to ask, who was buying the first movie in droves that made the people at Video Brinquedo say, "Oh my god, we hit the jackpot here! We need to exploit this franchise for all it's worth!" Let's start things off by talking about the one movie in this whole series that actually thinks it's a movie. The Little Cars, The Great Race. Yeah, they had to give this one a subtitle because they knew that it was going to have sequels. Points for positive thinking, I guess. Our movie opens in the city of Raceopolis as racing season is about to begin. We meet a young taxicab named Cruz as he dreams about becoming a race car someday. If you're confused about this character being named Cruz when he's so obviously Tony from the Little Cars 2 review, don't worry, your confusion is perfectly justifiable. For some reason, his name is Cruz in this movie, and Tony in the rest of the series. And he's not alone in this naming mishmash. Combo, for instance, used to be called Lugnut, which is just plain weird. Again, if we apply human standards to these characters, wouldn't that be like naming him Ankle? And Tony's girlfriend Chris? Her name is Coop in this movie. And you may remember Cruz from the second movie. In this one, his name is just The Champ. How do you make a sequel and forget the name of everyone in your cast? Anyway, Tony here, and yes, I'm still calling him Tony for the purposes of this review, dreams of being a big racing superstar, and Chris is a big fan of races herself. And as the only female in the entire cast, naturally she has to be the object of Tony's affections, but he just can't figure out how to ask her out.
Say! What if you invited Coop to the big race tomorrow?
The race?
Yeah, imagine that. A society which revolves entirely around racing, and only now does Tony get the idea of inviting Chris to the race. Quite the mental giant, our Tony.
Cruz has a crush on Coop. Cruz has a crush on Coop.
All right, Lugnut, it's not funny. Shut your grill.
Okay, that's just freaky. As I pointed out in my review for Ratatouille, knockoffs like these are trying to compete with the movies they're ripping off, so if they're going to be on the shelves while the real movies are still in theaters, they can't afford to actually see the movies first. They just need to make educated guesses about what might be happening therein, and make their own movies accordingly. How the hell did they rip off this scene from Cars almost word for word?
You're in love with Miss Sally.
Okay, that's real mature, made a real grown up.
Cruz has a crush on Coop. Cruz has a crush on Coop.
All right, Lugnut, it's not funny. Shut your grill.
You want to learn how to pick up a girl? Come to a pickup truck.
And that joke predates Planes, Fire, and Rescue.
Hey, Sugar Rims, you just fall out of a B-17? 'Cause you're the bomb.
Pickup trucks.
Are we in some kind of a time paradox here?
It's more like a big ball of wibbly-wobbly, timey-wimey stuff.
Get your motor running. Head out on the highway. Looking for adventure. And whatever comes our way.
Copyright infringement. YouTube's gonna get ya. Born to get sued. Gotta love the voice acting here too. I can't believe I'm saying this, but I think I'm glad they changed Combo's voice for the rest of the series. Tony goes to buy tickets for the race the next day, where we meet a new racer named Wrangler who comes into town to claim the championship. Chris shows up, for some reason, and Wrangler thinks now is as good a time as any to introduce himself.
Hey, you dollface. Nice headlights.
Hey, dollface, I like your boobs. No, seriously, listen to this earlier dialogue and tell me that headlights isn't their word for breasts in this movie.
Oh, Lugnut, I can't stop thinking of her. Those fenders, that rear bumper, and those headlights. Oh, those headlights.
He's clearly talking about her thighs, ass, and bust in that sentence. And the inappropriate anatomy jokes don't stop there.
Clean your trunk!
That gets my motor going.
Oh no, even my niece gets overheated.
But to tell you the truth, that woman really annoyed me. She was a real pain in the rear bumper.
Oh, poor Akira's gonna get his rear bumper handed to him.
That kid has a lot of spunk in his trunk.
Must be a Bob show! Ugh. Now it occurs to me that I'm driving a car that's only 2 years old. She shouldn't be listening to this kind of language. Anyway, Wrangler comes on to Chris, and since he's big, long, and black, I guess Tony can't help but feel inadequate.
Oh, what's the matter, Sparky? Your spark plug's not sparking? Cheer up, I'll give you my autograph.
He does a little training later that day with Chris watching from the pits, but his confidence is rattled after seeing the champion beat his numbers.
I am going to win this race, whatever it costs. Do you hear me?
As God is my witness, I will never win second again! He sneaks into the pits later that night and taints the champ's gasoline supply, leaving behind a tire print that's obviously meant to give him away. Admittedly, I like the idea of tire tracks being used as traits that are unique to each individual car, like how we see them being used as autographs by both Wrangler and Tony in this movie and the next, but if that's the idea they want to roll with, why couldn't they design the tire tracks to be more unique? This track could have been left by anybody. There's nothing to set it apart from the rest of the cars. It's like the Batmobile from Batman and Robin. They actually made custom tires for that car that would leave little bat symbols behind its tracks. They couldn't make tracks that look like the Wrangler's logo or something? Wow. How many movies can make you say, it would be better if you did what Batman and Robin did? The big race finally comes the next day, and we get some exposition about how Mr. V8's delivery business is on the verge of bankruptcy. Gee, if only there was a young dreamer who could enter the race and make enough money to keep the business afloat. V8 tells Combo to take all of his money out of his savings so he can pay off the company's debts, but he instead uses the money to bet on the race. Don't spend it all on the bet, Combo. There's still a vendor over there selling magic beans.
Lugnut, you did what?
Yeah, I bet your money on the champ, Mr. V8. It felt right.
How could you, Lugnut? I can't believe you did something like that. I trusted you, Lugnut. It's all over. You ruined me.
You broke my heart, Combo. You broke my heart. The race begins, and just like Wrangler planned, the champ is out of commission since he's been poisoned.
Sorry, folks. The suspect covered all his tracks. We've got nothing to go on.
You guys got the stereotype wrong. Cops are supposed to be Irish, not Scottish. Tony shows up to fill in for the champ, and while I question the necessity of them painting him in the champ's colors, at least it makes more sense than I gave it credit for when we saw him wearing those same colors in the little cars too. And it's better than just assuming that Tony copied Cruise's look. Sure, we can be inspired by other people, but it's always important that we stay true to ourselves. Hell, even the nostalgia chick ended up having a reviewing style completely different from the critic's style, and she was supposed to be a copy of the nostalgia critic. Anyway, back to the race. Wrangler takes the lead by throwing some still shots of his ass at the other racers, but Tony ends up winning the race because Wrangler just happened to run over some randomly placed tacks, making him blow a tire. So what did Tony do to win the race?
Nothing! Absolutely nothing!
So Tony saves the race and V8's company from going under, Wrangler is exposed for his gas tampering, and Chris declares her love for Tony now that he's the new champion. Now that that piece of poorly animated, poorly written, and poorly voiced crap is out of the way, let's talk about the third and fourth pieces of poorly animated, poorly written, and poorly voiced crap. As I said, the first movie is the only one in this series that actually plays out like a movie. The rest of the series follows the same pattern they established in The Little Cars 2, meaning they're a collection of shorts that ultimately amount to nothing. The Little Cars 3 includes a story where a Japanese car named Akira, who doesn't look or sound Japanese, challenges Tony to a drift race. Whoever wins the race gets Chris, and she's completely fine with it. It's okay to treat women like objects. Great message for the kids. There's also another story where Tony's cousin comes for a visit and gets lost, only to effortlessly find his way back, completely alright, but with a new paint job. A story where Wrangler tries to humiliate Tony at some concert with the aid of the band's roadie semi-truck, who looks like a big kitty cat. And a story where Wrangler takes a cue from Diesel from A Car's Life and starts peddling some kind of miracle drug that gives Mr. V8 a burst of energy, but it eventually lights him on fire.
It's a bunch of lies. My tonic is good for you. You can ask any of my customers.
I am one of your customers, and I'm telling you this tonic is terrible. I'm blowing flames on my backside. How do you explain that? Oh my gosh! Just look at me! The fire is spreading! Ah, you're a crook! What have you done?
No, that's not how you react to spontaneously catching fire. The correct reaction is, oh my god, I'm on fire! Somebody put me out! Somebody put me out! Oh my god, I'm burning! Somebody put me out! Similarly, Little Cars 4 includes a story about Combo learning how to appreciate his friends after he hallucinates a genie that magically takes them away, a story about him getting amnesia but then he regains his memories when his girlfriend Simone shows up, a story about Tony and his friends making a delivery to an allegedly haunted junkyard that frankly makes Scooby-Doo look like Sherlock Holmes, and the final story is about Tony getting Chris a new set of hubcaps for her birthday, which he has to fight tooth and nail over with some little old lady, who turns out to be Chris's mother, who was after the hubcap so that she can give it to her as a birthday present. Oh, the irony! Of course, these are still Video Brinquedo movies, so the animation is going to be pretty bad. These characters almost never look at each other while they're talking, the mob movements are still disturbing, and while they remember to, sloppily, put crowds in the stands at the racetrack, they forget to actually put them in the city. Is Raceopolis just closed for the day? And sadly, the writing doesn't do much to help this bad animation.
It's the most fun you can have under a hood. All cars love this time of year.
I'm not paying you to have fun. Fun is for tricycles, not for us four-wheelers.
Is the implication that tricycles eventually grow up to become cars?
I'm going to buy tickets for the race, and I can't wait to invite Coop.
Get a good seat.
Shouldn't that line be, get a good parking spot?
He's the best. Right, Akira?
Yeah. And I'm a big loser. You may not have won, but you raced a good race. For an amateur.
Way to be the bigger man, Tony. We see the cars being stalked by a ghost car while making their delivery to the junkyard, but it turns out to be Mr. V8 wearing a car cover. Why did he never tell them that it was him the whole time? Not only is it never explained, but none of the characters even think to ask that question themselves. And take a look at this part, where Tony's cousin gets lost in the city.
This is crazy, so he's lost. He's so naive.
But then, not even 1 minute later...
It's not like he's a child. He's a smart guy, and the racetrack is easy enough to find.
Then what the hell were you worrying about before? But to be fair, I do have to give credit where credit is due. They didn't feel the need to confine these stories exclusively to the racetrack, or V8's delivery company, so whenever there is a new location change, they actually made a new location. Granted, the graphics are still complete crap, but hey, at least they're doing something to expand the story instead of just rehashing the same scenery over and over again. Also, if they need to make a new character, they might do something as simple as take an old character model and give it a new paint job, but more often than not, they'll actually make physical changes to an older model to make him into something new. Okay, so most of these changes end up looking like they just threw Mr. Potato Head pieces onto them, but hey, it's still something. I also gotta laugh at the pointy rearview mirrors that they gave this genie character. That was a cute touch. Although, now that I think about it, the presence of these boom winches is more than a little odd. Combo has a boom winch, his dad has a boom winch, but his mom doesn't have a boom winch, and neither does Simone. Are those supposed to be their... Why does Dad's hat look like a scrotum? Ugh, never mind. It would also be easy enough to have our new characters just roll into town, but when Combo's parents and Tony's cousin arrive, we see them come in on a car carrier like it's a bus. That's surprisingly clever. And the CGI is a little better in some places. Racing is going to be a big part of these movies, and whenever we see these cars speeding by in Little Cars 3 and 4, the roads actually look like roads instead of TV snow like we see in Little Cars 1 and 2. Unfortunately, these positive traits do little to take away from the fact that these movies are hard to watch, hard to listen to, and are ultimately pointless. But remember, we're only halfway through this franchise at this point. Will the last 4 sequels be able to redeem this series? Tune in next week to find out. See you next time.
Get your motor running, out on the highway, looking for adventure, and whatever comes our way. Yeah, darling, gonna make it happen. Take the world and the love embrace. Fire all of the guns at once and explode into space. Alex making lightning, heavy metal thunder, racing with the wind, and the feeling that I'm under. Yeah, I'm gonna make it happen. Take the world and the love embrace. Fire all of the guns at once. one sound, explode into space. Like a true nature's child, we rub on into the wild. We can climb so high, I'll never wanna die.
That kid has a lot of spunk in his trunk.
Subscribe, like, follow, comment, share, watch more.